welcome to SynergyO2, the breath of life. My name is Russ Chason, and I'm going to be your host here to introduce a very special person. Every now and then, somebody steps out of the crowd in the field of education to make the world a better place to live, and that's especially important today in the field of medicine and science. And this individual was head of one of the largest hospitals in the Philippines for several years, now a resident of the United States, and one of the premier lecturers around the United States and around the world in the area of health and wellness, and in particular, the subject matter of oxygen. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you today for him to share his thoughts about what's going on in the environment and the importance of oxygen is Dr. Levi Panganson.
Now this time I would like to talk to you about the importance of oxygen. We know very well that we can live without food for 40 days. We cannot live without water beyond 5 days. And we cannot live without oxygen beyond 6 minutes. So you see how important this is. Now every one of us wants to have energy. In fact, that's the reason why everybody has to eat. In fact, if I have no energy, I should not be here. But the thing is, everyone wants energy. In fact, you could hear a lot of people saying, oh, I don't have energy. And so what is energy? If we come up to the definition of energy, science says energy is the capacity to do work. In other words, I'm able to speak all because I have energy. And you're able to listen to me today because you have energy. The question is, where will you get energy? Okay? Energy should be coming from the food you eat. Okay? Without the food, there is no energy. And without energy, there is no work. So energy is the capacity to do work, and energy can only be there in the presence of food. Okay? Now, so there are 3 different kinds of substance known to be the source of energy, and that is your carbohydrates, your fats, and proteins. Carbohydrates, before they can be converted into energy, the body has to make that into simple sugar. But even if you have the simple sugar, unless there is oxygen, you will not produce energy. There are 2 ways for which the body can produce energy. We have what we call anaerobic metabolism, meaning that the glucose, or the glucose that is converted to energy is converted without the presence of oxygen. And the problem with this is, when you have glucose converted to energy in the absence of oxygen, you will produce more waste. Now, let's remember this, that every single cell in the body, as soon as they produce energy, they always would produce waste material. And you will understand what waste is. Okay, now so, when you don't have enough oxygen, or no oxygen for that matter, you may produce energy, but you will produce a lot of waste. And what are the waste when carbohydrates or sugar is being used for energy? Number 1, carbon dioxide. And that's when you exhale, you throw it off. The other waste material out of that reaction is water. Okay? And that's why you perspire, you urinate. And the third waste material that will be produced as a result of sugar without oxygen is lactic acid. Now, what is lactic acid? This is the byproduct of carbohydrate metabolism in the absence of oxygen. So, when you have that accumulated in your system, much more so in the muscles, your muscles become stiff. And this is the reason why you will have pains after you exercise in the absence of oxygen. Now, when this happens, we have what we call in medicine an oxygen debt, meaning you were exercising with a lack of oxygen or no oxygen, so you owe your body oxygen. Okay? And this is the one that would accumulate in your muscles, and if you continue exercising in the absence of oxygen, you know what is going to happen? You will collapse. In other words, you need oxygen for you to be able to have energy, and you have lack of waste. take note that every time energy is released, there is always a corresponding waste materials in the body. Now, this waste material is the one that has not been focused even by medical science. We thought that for as long as we eat, we'll find. No, because every time we work, every time we eat, and when those are converted into energy, you always will produce waste. And to me, waste is a killer, okay? Now, if your body has sufficient amount of oxygen, you will have more energy and less waste. And that should be the most ideal thing that we can do. All right, let me go to fat now. Fat will be the second substance that the body will use in the absence of carbohydrates. Take note, the body will always use carbohydrates for energy. If there's no more carbohydrates to use, that is when they will come in and use fats. Now, fat has to be converted again to energy. In fact, fat is considered to be a good source of energy. However, fat would also need oxygen for it to be burned to produce energy. In fact, fat should be converted into fatty acids. Now, the problem here is when you have less oxygen, with the fat reacting to it, you will produce another waste material. Okay, for instance, what are the waste material if fat is being used by the body? Okay, again, carbon dioxide is a waste material. Second, water is a waste material as a result of that reaction. And third, we have what we call ketone bodies. Ketone bodies, if you have a lot of this because the body is now using fat for energy, you know what? These ketone bodies would increase in the body. And when they increase, they would change the pH of your body. If we check your blood, your pH in the body will be running between 7.35 to 7.45. That's the normal pH. Okay, the pH of water is 7.0. Here is a line, okay? And on the left side of the line, up to 7 is called acidic. Okay, that's an acidic side. From 7 to 14, that is what we call the alkaline side. Now, the human body is slightly alkaline. As you can see, the 7.35 that I mentioned and the 7.45 is the normal pH. In other words, we are on the alkaline side. About 70% of our body is actually alkaline. If, for instance, I reduce the pH and make that acidic, say from 7.35, I make it 7.30, you know what? You will start to have difficulty of breathing. And if I drop that further to 7.20, for instance, it's not compatible to life. In other words, you will die. Now, there is one element there which is very necessary, and that's oxygen. So if we have more oxygen to react with fat, then we have produced more energy and we produce less waste. And the same is true. If we have less oxygen, as they react with fat, what happens? We may have energy, but we produce a lot of waste. And to me, waste is the killer. Now let me go into the protein. Protein, I consider protein as a reserve. Okay, as when there is no more carbohydrates to use and there's no more fat to use, then the last substance that the body would use will be protein. Now, protein normally is not the main substance to give us energy because protein has other job to do. In fact, in the body, they are the ones responsible to build our muscles. They're the ones responsible to build our bones. They are also used to carry substance from one place to another. They are used also to protect our body by the use of antibodies. See, but then, if you have no more fat, you have no more carbohydrates, then the body would come and utilize protein. Now, that is serious when the body starts to do that, but somehow that is how the body would use this substance for energy. Now, protein is not directly used for energy. That protein will have to be brought to the liver, and the liver would convert that into simple sugar again, and they follow the pathway of carbohydrates. But with the protein, Again, when the body would react to it, it will produce waste as well. And one of the waste of protein metabolism is your ammonia. And ammonia is a very poisonous substance in the body. And so the liver has to convert that and make it into a urea so that it has to throw it out through the kidneys in the form of urea. And by the way, the human body is made up of about 75 to 100 trillion cells. In other words, if I have to make the smallest of you, you are a cell. And there is a little organ in the cell, inside the cell, we call that mitochondria. And there are cells in the body that they have so many mitochondria. An example to this is the brain, for instance. One cell in the brain alone had about 10,000 mitochondria. And every mitochondrium needs oxygen. That's the reason why when we don't have oxygen in the brain, we become sleepy. That's the reason why we become dizzy if we don't have that. Because every cell in the brain, one cell alone, has about 10,000 mitochondria. And every mitochondria in that cell requires oxygen. The question is, do we have enough oxygen? Well, many people will say, well, I'm breathing okay. Yeah, you are breathing all right, but take note that when you breathe in oxygen or you breathe in air, you are breathing in about 400 or 500 cc of air every time you breathe in. For the 500 cc of air that we breathe in, only about 20% of this is pure oxygen. Now, what is the 400 composed of? It is a mixture of pollutants. For instance, carbon monoxide is one pollutant. Cyanide is one pollutant. Hydrogen sulfide is another pollutant that we are breathing in the air, and we are not able to notice that. But the question is, are you breathing a real clean air?
I'm intensely concerned about the health of my patients and the health of many people throughout the world. We're seeing an increase of degenerative diseases, those related to primarily a lack of oxygen. We're seeing now a greater amount of pollution in our air, contributions to diminish the oxygen levels about us, combined with the fact of sedentary living, which many people are not getting enough fully exercise to increase the oxygen levels. And this leads us up to these degenerative diseases. Many of you know about these diseases. You've seen them in your own families. We have heart disease, we have lung disease, emphysema, we have arthritis, degenerative diseases of the brain, dementias, and Alzheimer's disease, allergies that are profusely increasing, the susceptibility to the various infections about us, like viruses, and now the flu pandemic that is taking place throughout the world. In order to keep ourselves healthy, we must have plenty of oxygen, better oxygen that we can control to help these diseases. Now, one source of this oxygen is SynergyO2. It is a product that delivers oxygen just where we need it. It has the ability to work with the water in our own bodies, and with the contents of this product, increase oxygen, elemental oxygen to the cells. The cell is the basic structure of energy within our body. It's where the immune system gets fortified. It's where the energy of production for our muscular activity, our brain power, all takes place. So with plenty of oxygen, this will develop. Also, this product has such a unique capability that it releases an oxidative oxygen, which has the ability to keep our immune system strong and fight viruses and bacteria, which can overwhelm our immune system. And finally, the most important thing is silica. Silica is an element that we don't find so much. We hear about the minerals of calcium and magnesium, but this product will help keep the lungs strong, keep the immune system strong, the joints flexible, and the arteries pliable. It's a missing element, and this product is able to give both of these together. And combined with this, at the cellular level, as I talked about, there's amino acids and trace minerals which fortify the whole product in the process of this. It's been a pleasure being with you today, sharing information about SynergyO2 and the problems that the world is facing with lack of oxygen. I hope to be with you to share more information on general information about your health, how it can relate to the product SynergyO2 in the future.
What I found